Well, hello everyone. Thank you for all joining us today. I'm so incredibly excited to have these three speakers joining us today and really going through all of the details that you could possibly need to know of how to launch your blockchain startup. So my name is Daniel Pinto. I'm a market research consultant here with FAS. FinTech Advisory Service is really focused on growing those early stage blockchain ideas into profitable and scalable businesses. I'm also joined today by Elena, the co-founder and CEO of FinTech Advisory Service, and Dr. Chong Li, the managing partner of Ava Labs. Ava Labs is an early stage venture capital fund, as well as seed stage accelerator that is focused on really scaling those early stage blockchain ideas as well. Dr. Chong is also the co-founder of Nakamoto and Turing, which is a blockchain and artificial intelligence research lab based here in New York. Finally, I'm joined by Gabrielle Cardona. Gabrielle is a developer evangelist over with Ava Labs. And Ava Labs is really focused on taking an open source platform that allows early stage companies as well as later stage developers to really develop smart contracts that are built for scale within the global financial space. So thank you all for joining us today, and I'm so incredibly excited to hear your perspectives on the business today. One thing I want to make very clear from the get-go is that we want this to be an interactive discussion. This is not meant to be something that is just people up here speaking. We want this to be a back and forth discussion where you're able to kind of pick these people's brains apart and really understand their perspectives. So anytime you have a question, anything that you want some clarification on, if you want to discuss this in more detail, I hope you'll be using that comment section and really leave the questions that you want to be answered here in the chat. So I'll turn it over to our presenters now, and we'll start off with Elena. Maybe you can give us a little bit more context into your background, Elena, and give us an idea of where you come from and what you have to offer in the blockchain space as well. So thanks, Elena. I'll turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for watching us today. As Daniel mentioned, I'm founder and CEO at FAS FinTech Advisory Services. We're a consulting ecosystem that works with companies and helps them to grow their ideas into successful ventures in blockchain and fintech. We work with companies and help them to start from idea to market launch, and we also work with established companies and help them with business acceleration. Let me start with my presentation, and I will share a few more details there. So as I mentioned, FS works with companies all over the world. And right now, we are covering 12 countries with our professional network of consultants from different industries. We're also quite well connected in the field, and we have more than 800 companies in our network, and we're always happy to connect our clients with those companies. We also, like in the past year, we worked with 32 startups and SMEs as advisors, mentors, and consultants. So let me begin covering some basics on building a strategy for smooth market launch. And as you all have noticed, the blockchain industry becomes more and more saturated with different applications appearing in the market. And if we talk about the cryptocurrency space, we all remember there are a lot of DeFi projects, security tokens, and of course the recent trend with NFTs projects. If we talk about blockchain technology in general, there are many different applications. For example, blockchain in telecommunication, in supply chain, logistics, traditional finance, and many other applications out there. And of course, if we talk about business strategy, it always should be tailored to a specific business need and business purpose. And of course, the domain that you are choosing within the blockchain. It would be a little bit challenging to cover all of them within the time of this presentation. So I will be covering the basics that will fit all businesses within blockchain domain. And let me begin with the purpose. I always ask founders to think about why they're building this project. And of course, they should be honest with themselves, because if they're saying to themselves that they're planning to change the world, but actually they're there for quick earnings, it will not make any difference for their business approach. So please be honest with yourself, understand what you are trying to achieve with your business. And in order to be successful on the market, it's very important to think and plan long term. Do you know these questions that people ask? How do you see yourself in 5 years, in 10 years? That's the place where you need to ask this question, because you need to have a clear vision to where you are heading with your business. And during this way, you have to plan every single step from time zero to your final destination. As I mentioned, we have so many different trends appearing on the market every year. And that's why I always recommend to act short term, act quickly, because those trends can help you to grow your business a lot. And if you are trying to jump into this boat, you always need to try to do it first. Because if you try to jump to the boat really late, when there are so many people in there, this boat is sinking. And it will not help your business that much if you can actually foresee and act quickly. So remember these simple steps. Think and plan long-term and act short-term. But understand the clear purpose of what you are trying to achieve with your business. And in FS, we use a very simple 5W approach for a business strategy. That consists of 5 questions. And the first is, what is your product and service? Who are you offering it to? Where are you operating? Who are you? When are you launching? And which channels will you use? And right now, I'm getting rid of 5W and replacing it with 6W, because I also think that it's important to understand what resources do you need in order to build and succeed with your business. So let's begin with the first step, your product and service. They should solve a real and urgent problem at the market. That's something that you should understand first thing when you're building your business. You also have to have unique features and offers that will differentiate your business from your competitors. You also need to have a clear message for your target audience, because you want your target audience to understand what you are trying to offer them. And of course, the revenue model. Let's be honest, you're still trying to earn some money, right? And in order to earn some money, you have to plan your revenue model and understand how you're gonna monetize. After you settled your product or service, it's time to think about the target audience. Who will actually benefit from your product or service? And I always suggest to build several profiles and start studying them in more detail. You can start from demographics, understanding where is they located, their age groups, gender groups, and other characteristics. The next will be the preferences. What do they like and what do they dislike? Behavior. You need to understand what do they use, when are they active, and many other behavioral aspects that will help you to plan your future marketing efforts. You also need to understand the pain points, something that they're suffering with, and understand the urgent need. because last two things will help you with the problem-solution equation, and first three things will help you to define a clear message for your target audience to make sure that they got what you are trying to sell them. Now, let's talk about unique value proposition, how you actually gonna position yourself on the market and differentiate yourself from competitors. And in order to do this, you need to do an extensive competitor analysis and also analyze all possible substitutes out there, because that will help to understand what is special about your project. It can be technology or features that your competitors don't have. It can be a simple UX. Maybe your competitors have so many steps to register or to use their application, and you can do it as a one-click solution. It can be a business approach. Maybe instead of being too professional and formal, you want to be a bit more casual with your target audience. And of course, you can think about niche focus. For example, community of the group of underserved borrowers, and you have access to their community, and you know that your solution can address their needs and address their pain points, while your competitors are not thinking about this niche. Of course, there can be a good opportunity for you to actually address your solution and help and address this target group. With niche focus, you can grow both ways. Vertically, you can look for other niche on the market, or you can grow horizontally and look for different countries with the same niche of, let's say, underserved borrowers in our case. Once you determined your unique value proposition, you can finally think about those countries where you're planning to launch your business at. And when choosing a country, I usually list 5 conditions that should be met, not necessarily all together, but at least a few conditions from the list will be a good signal for you that you chose the right market. And first is that you're located in this country. Second is that you know this market very well. Maybe you have good connections in this market, or you have strong partners, or you speak the language. Again, not necessarily all the conditions should be met, but at least a few of them would be crucial for you to have a success at that market. After that, I already mentioned previously that timing is also important when you're launching your business. And let's now figure out when and for how long your target audience need your product and service. So talking about timing and long-term value, you can ask yourself, does your target audience actually need your solution now? Do they need it urgent? These 2 questions will help to understand if the timing is right and you can launch now. Then you can ask yourself if your target audience will use this solution in future, or how long will they use it for. Last 2 questions will help you to determine a long-term value of your project. And once you understood that the timing is right and you're ready to launch, what else do you need? Channels and resources. There are a lot of different channels that you can choose for launching your project. I will list a few examples. For example, it can be strong partnerships in the industry, it can be social media or different media publications, events, communities. For example, you can already have a big community where you want to launch with your new product. It can be an old word of mouth when you give your friends to use your, let's say, application, and they're so happy about it and keep telling their friends. That still works. There can be other channels. What's important to know about the channels is that your target audience must use these channels, because no matter how many messages you're gonna shoot out there, if your target audience don't use these channels, it will be a waste of time. So understand what channels your target audience use and use them to promote your business. Another important thing to launch successfully are the resources. First of all, you need to think about human resources, people who can help you to make this business happen. It can be connections, networks that can help to boost up your business. Those can be also funds, because of course you need money to pay people, you need money for marketing efforts. Maybe you need some equipment or technology, or even office or some specific venue. There can be so many different things you might need to launch your business. But what is important is to prioritize them. You need to understand which of those resources are the crucial ones for you to launch. And you need to find them ASAP. Once you already defined your channels, resources, and everything else, you can start a test launch. And during the test launch, you need to pay a special attention to a market validation, because you want to understand if you are doing the right thing and you're getting a good response. I would recommend to look at 3 metrics: user retention, consistent user growth, monthly active users. If you're in a service-based business, then you can look at the client retention and client growth rate. You wouldn't need monthly active clients, of course. And the way to understand if your retention or growth rates are good and your business is well performing, you need a well-established customer analytics. I always recommend to work with professionals who can build customer analytics strategy and integrate all the required tools in order to get the maximum feedback from your users and clients, and without irritating them with large questionnaires and endless questions. Always collect feedback and reviews as much as possible. That's the way how you can understand if everything is right or there is something wrong with your business. And one of the examples for software businesses is a Net Promoter Score that is widely used in different apps and websites. You simply ask your target audience a question: how likely will you recommend our solution to your friends? And they choose from 0 to 10. And of course, if you have a high NPS score, that means that your business performing quite well and people satisfied. The lower the score, the more signals you're getting that you need to improve something with your project. And what if you got a low conversion rate? I always say that you shouldn't be afraid of pivoting. And there are different issues that can happen with your business that can be a signal for you to pivot. It can be, for example, issues with idea and positioning. You might have a wrong message and talk to a right target audience that just don't understand what you're trying to sell them. It can be a wrong message to a wrong target audience, meaning that you might not have a solution that is needed as a market. You can have a right message, but you just picked wrong people to pitch to. Maybe you need to look for a better audience that will actually understand and value your solution. You can just have an initial project misjudgment. Maybe you need to do more research and understand how to adjust your project in ways that people will use it. There can be other ways. There can be other issues happening with a company. There can be even a lack of marketing efforts. If you did some social media campaign and people maybe didn't even understand the message, or you didn't do like enough reach and you just like having troubles on this side. There can be still UX and design that people maybe didn't even understand that they need to download some app. Maybe the registration was so complicated that people didn't want to do it at all. And another thing that can happen is a low retention rate. That will also be a signal for you to do some pivoting. You can experience issues with a core product service on the business side. You can experience such issues on the tech and UX side. You also might face with the situation that market conditions has changed and your project is no longer needed as a market. That's of course a really worst case scenario, and you will need to do a lot of business reshaping. There can be other reasons. As I already mentioned, ask your target audience. Always have an open conversation with your users, with your clients. Get as much feedback as you can. That will help you to validate your idea and make sure that you are succeeding out there. And if you already did the test launch and you think that you're ready for official launch, let's do a really quick checklist. You are all set if your business strategy and action plan already well defined. You know what you are doing and you have all the steps in place. Your test launch was a success, or you learned from your test launch. Maybe you got enough feedback, you did some reshaping, and now you know that you are going with the right product. You also might have an audience waiting for you, and that will be an important factor for you to launch. There can be some community, there can be already clients that pre-subscribed, or you might have some people that said to you that they're willing to purchase your solution. You need to know that there are people waiting for you. And of course, strong support is crucial. It can be connections, partnerships, it can be some media help and assistance. All these 4 elements will be very crucial for you to succeed in the market. But of course, we cannot put all the things that are that crucial for your business in this short 4 elements. But just do like a quick checklist. If all these are in place, go in more detail. See if all the plans were made, if you have the strategy already well defined, if this audience that is waiting for you is actually waiting for you, and how many people you have, maybe you can get even more. Do the extra checking. But if there is something missing from this list, you need to do some extra job. I know that it was quite intense presentation. I will be really happy to answer questions during this webinar, and you always can reach out to me at LinkedIn. I'm very responsive. I'm always happy to answer the questions and help your business to grow. Thank you a lot for watching me, and I give a word to Daniel.
Elena, that was absolutely fantastic. I think there were so many really valuable pieces of information there for all of the entrepreneurs listening today, all of the blockchain evangelists. I'm sure they're taking notes as frantically as I was, and have a tremendous amount of questions too. So I think it would be great to really just get into a few questions here that we're just popping straight into my head hearing your conversation. And then once we have our other speakers go through their presentations too, we can kind of have that round robin discussion and get into things in more detail. But the first thing that really jumped out to me there, Elena, was building profiles around the target audiences. Not all people that are using this product that you're going to be launching are a monolith, right? Not all of them are the same. Not all of them have the same needs. And I think your point about really focusing that in and really understanding the different types of users is really valuable. So can you maybe talk about that in a little bit more detail, and especially focusing on really those pain points, right? What are the specific challenges that these customers are facing, and how do I identify them? How do I understand them? How do I empathize with them and really build a product that helps them in the end?
First of all, as again, there are so many different applications and subdomains within blockchain. It's very hard to just generalize, right? Especially with the pain points. What I usually recommend, companies come up with some idea at first, right? They're not like, maybe they see the problem on the market at first. Maybe they come up with idea first. If they already saw the problem at the market, that's the best case scenario, because they already know what they're trying to solve. In this way, they already understand the pain points. Let's talk about the second case. When you have a great technology, you have a product, but you don't yet know how to advertise it, how to position, and who to sell it. You need to start from maybe like a wider approach. You need to see at your competitors. You need to see like some substitutes on the market. You need to see like what competitors are offering, see what kind of people they work with, and see how different you are. Then you understand what is their target audience. You start building the profiles. You start looking, for example, it's some cryptocurrency in developing country, right, where people don't have access to banking solutions. So you already see that your target audience will be unbanked population, and you wanna like tailor your solution to them. Then you need to subdivide them into other categories. These unbanked people can be crypto friendly, they can be crypto like unfriendly, meaning that they don't really understand cryptocurrency market at all. There can be skeptics that know about cryptocurrencies but not sure that this actually a good approach for them. So you need to differentiate them by these categories, and then you need to dive deeper. You need to understand what they experience, what pains they experience on a daily basis. All of them will be experiencing the pains that they cannot get access to the bank, right? For some different reasons. Maybe banks are allocated so far away from them. Maybe they just don't know how to register online. So you start listing these problems, that they're not, for example, tech savvy. They don't really understand how to use a smartphone. They might not understand how to like register for a bank. They might not have a digital identity, like a digital identification document, right? And that, for example, problems that people in Myanmar were facing. And these kind of problems and pain points can help you to understand how you're gonna address your solution to make sure that they can use your product. Sometimes you can find out that some pain point is something that you cannot solve whatsoever. And of course, that will be a signal for you that maybe this is not your target audience. So you need to make sure that this pain point is something solvable by your specific project. I hope I I gave an answer to this question.
Definitely some fantastic insights there, really making sure that you have the market pain point well established. You understand the types of people that are experiencing that problem, and really understand their perspectives there. I think that those are all very valuable pieces of insights that I'm sure all of our listeners today can take and apply to their businesses as well. So thank you, Elena, for your wonderful presentation there. I'm sure everyone got a lot out of that, hopefully just as much as me. We're going to keep things moving right along here, and I welcome Dr. Chong Lee once again. I can't wait to hear his insights, which are really going to be focused on, after you've done everything that Elena says, you've, checked all those boxes and gone through all of those validations. Dr. Chong is the guy that's going to allow you to really understand, what that next stages look like in terms of getting your project funded and really taking it to the next level. So, Dr. Chong, I turn the floor over to you. Very excited to hear your insights as well.
Thank you. Hey everyone, very nice to meet you here. So let me share my screen first. Hold on for a second. Okay, so can you see my screen? Okay, great. So my name is Chong Li. I'm the managing partner at Ava, a accelerator based in New York City. And Ava is focusing on the investment in the domain of ABCD, which means AI and blockchain, cloud, and data analytics. Um, and in the meanwhile, I'm the co-founder of Nakamoto and Turing Labs, also based in New York City. This is a blockchain and AI research lab. And I'm also a faculty member in the Department of Electrical Engineering at Columbia University. So I've been teaching a graduate level course, blockchain technology at Columbia for 4 years since 2016. So now today I just want to share some information about and also the insight about the investment in early stage blockchain startups. So I gave you this information from an investor perspective. So I think this could be very, very helpful for the founders, startup founders, to understand or to know what investors think when they do the investment in these early stage blockchain startups. So the first question is why we want to do investment in these startups. That is driven by the market. So here is a very quick market overview. So the blockchain market is expected to grow from 5.5 billion in 2019 to 20 billion by 2025. You see, this is almost a 4x, okay, in just 6 years. And also the global fintech funding is exceeded 31 billion in 2017, 4 years back, basically. And Asia and North America take market more than 70% market. So you can see from this figure, the North America, which is blue right here, and Asia, which is here. So, and North America is very is the major market in blockchain basically. So driven by this market, growing market year by year, so lots of investors and the funds goes to the blockchain startups. Okay, but as an investor, the question is, when we look at these tens of thousands of startups, so what we look for, okay? Here I list a list of criteria that we care about most. So I'm gonna go through this one by one and give you more insight. And here the highlighted criteria that in red, the top chain and top-notch team are the most important too when we look at projects. Okay, so let me go through this list from the top to the bottom. So the first is a top chain. Of course, when we do investment, we want to invest top chain startups. So here currently, what is the top chain in the blockchain? NFT, non-fungible token, will be number one, and which is very hot in 2021. And DeFi, of course, has been there for years, and now it's a very hot topic as well. So DeFi is so since 2020, last year, DeFi got tons of attention from people and from investors and also the tech founders. Okay, NFT starts early this year, and we are expecting that NFT will be the hottest thing this year and the next year. Okay, and the next one is interoperability, which is very important for the massive adoption of blockchain technologies. You know that basically there's many projects working on a single public chain or enterprise blockchain or something like that, right? And blockchain technology is not massively adopted by regular people. And if we want to do that, you know, these public chains and the permission or permissionless chains, they need to talk to each other. So that technology is really hard. It's not that simple, and we need deep tech stuff there. So but we see that this is a very necessary if you want to have this massive adoption to the regular people. And the next one is low fees, like a repo, right? Or some others financial product. So using blockchain, if they can lower the fees, like transaction fees or cross-border transaction fees, to the next level, then of course this product will be very, very attractive. And the last thing is infrastructure. Here means like again, this is the necessary step for the massive adoption of a blockchain technology. Okay, so we need very robust, strong infrastructure. We need a public chain like something like Ethereum, Tron, or just many others outside there. So each of them are expanding their infrastructure year by year. So they are they're competing to get to obtain the market. Okay, so this is the top trend we care about most, at least this year. And the next is the potential. So your startup must have like a more than 10 million valuation. This is potential. You need to let the investor know that, oh, my startup has a lot of uptrend, and we have such tens of millions valuation in the very near future, and this is the potential. And next one is sufficient market, means the TAM, the total addressable market must be like a few billions at least. Otherwise, investors will not be that interested in this kind of a project. And also the core is of your technology or blockchain technology is to solve a major pain point with a clear monetization strategy. Okay, so I will explain this a little bit more and give some examples to show that why this is important. Okay, so actually this is associated with the top-notch team. So I will explain this a little bit later. And attraction means that your idea is proven directly by the market. Okay, the idea maybe you at the first stage you create some pilot, and you do some pilot with a potential clients, and then even you don't have any revenue, that's totally fine. But your pilot need to be directly proved by the client, potential clients, or by the market, basically. So this is very important as a very early for a very early stage blockchain startup, and not a blockchain startup. It applies to all other kinds of startups as well. And the next one, which is one of the most important, is the team. Okay, we care about the team, and we really love the team with the founders has 10 plus years experience in his domain. So he may not be a blockchain guy, okay, but he must be a guy who has tons of experience in his field. For example, the guy in logistics, in supply chain, in finance, in hedge fund, in trading, as a portfolio manager, whatever. Okay, so why we care about this? Because only when this person works in this field for more than 10 years, the person will have a deep understanding and lots of insight in his field, and know that what is really the pain point that blockchain can solve. Or in other words, how much value the blockchain technology can add to the current business in his field. So we don't think if a guy just working in this field for just 1 year, 2 years, and this guy may know that, oh, this is the pain point, and this is how blockchain can help. Because to evaluate how blockchain can help and how much blockchain can help is not an easy job. Okay, and also the startup, you know that as the work is going, so you may need to adjust many things. So at the end of the day, the product may not be the one you dreamed at the very beginning. It could be very totally different stuff, but still, at the end of the day, you got a very successful product, because along the journey, you changed your stuff many times according to the feedback from the market. So we need a very experienced team who can very robust, and also in the meanwhile very flexible, and has lots of experience in his field, and can quickly turn his product to another direction if needed. Okay, so that's why the team is the most important. And the next one, so defensible product. What does that mean? So that means, in other words, the product needs to have some barriers. So barriers here, usually we talk about two barriers. One is a technical barrier, another is a marketing barrier. So as a startup, you must have at least one of these two. Okay, So technical barrier is very easy to understand. For example, like you design a public chain, competing with Ethereum, for example, or EOS. So that means you need to design a very cool and fundamental consensus algorithm. And to design a new consensus algorithm, like for example, Byzantine fault tolerance-based algorithm, or Ghost algorithm, or some other like Algorand algorithm, it's not easy job. This is very deep tech stuff. It's a hardcore technology. You need the PhDs, researchers, and the scientists to work on this stuff. If you look at the yellow paper of Ethereum, you can tell Dr. Gavin, right? I remember the name. I think it's Gavin, Dr. Gavin. So you see the yellow paper of Ethereum is really, really technical. Okay, so it must be, the work must be done by doctors. So this is if such a product is here, we see, oh, this has a technical barrier, so that's cool stuff. Otherwise, which is the most of the case, the current blockchain startups, they do not have technical barrier, because many products, if you look at this, so they are just a smart contracts. Okay, for example, I read a Uniswap platform for the ERC20 tokens exchange, or something like other decentralized exchange, something like that. So most likely it's just a smart contract. Okay, there's no technical barrier, because maybe next day another team can do similar things just in a few days. But if you're the first mover in the market, that's also important. Just like a Uniswap. Okay, Uniswap, I think everyone knows that. So it's just a first mover in that direction. So now you can copy paste the Uniswap, or you can create from a scratch another Uniswap very easily, very easily. But they have their marketing barrier as the first mover. Okay, so as a product, you must have either one of these. So that's what we care about as investors. And the last one is the clear exit opportunities. So a clear path to M&A, merger or an acquisition, or IPO. Okay, so as a founders, you must have a very clear path to exit. How to figure out a clear path? That's based on your network, your connections to enterprise. For example, if you have, for example, right, you have very tight connection or close connection to a very good friend who is an executive in a big enterprise. Okay, so and then this is very good. It means that if your product resolve the pain point for that enterprise, most likely you will be acquired by that company in 1 year or two. So that gonna give you a very clear exit path, basically. Okay, and as investors, we love this kind of stuff. Okay, and also in the meanwhile, some red flag. So this is summary of from the experience when we select these startups. So in Ava Labs, the accelerator do investment in blockchain and AI companies, startups. Actually, every year we do 2 batches, and each batch we're gonna invest a few 5 to 10 companies. So in the first batch, which is almost close these days, so we received applications I think 3,000 applications all over the world in just less than 4 months, and you can see that how many startups are outside there. The number is a bit crazy. Just less than 4 months, we received almost 3,000 companies applications, but many of them has red flag, and which we're gonna give a no-brainer or very quick pass to these companies. Okay, so the first one is too big an idea but unachievable goals. Let me give you guys an example. For example, there's a one blockchain startup say, okay, I want to build a platform, blockchain-based platform, for the cross country traveling. Okay, so I want everyone in the world, like every government, they upload their citizens' passport or personal IDs to this blockchain platform. Okay, or in the post COVID-19, you have some health certificate or something like that. You upload this stuff to the blockchain platform, and every country in the world gonna use this single platform for traveling. Okay, so the idea is good. The idea is good. Okay, but this is unachievable goals for like a 5-person startup. Because of what? Because you need lots of, you can see lots of hurdles down the road, right? So you need to talk to the governments and make sure the governments will give you the passports of every single citizen in his country, but this is not possible. And also personal ID and also health certificates and many other certificates for individuals. These are all very private informations. How can you ask a government like China or United States or Russia to give all these informations to your blockchain platform? This is not possible at all, right? So that's an example. You have a very beautiful idea, but not achievable goals. The second is regulation-heavy business. So I see many blockchain startups. They are very good. They are very good. Okay, but the success requires tons of regulations from many organizations or agencies in a country. Okay, for example, uh, uh, the one I just gave you, right? So the international travel platform. It needs a lot of regulations from governments, and not just one government, tons of governments in the world, right? And also, if you want to do like for example, you want to store health data or clinical data storage on a blockchain platform. I see several projects doing the similar things. But you see the clinical data, if you want to ask this data from hospitals, for example, and save them on your blockchain platform, you need lots of regulations from the government and the agency, right? So this is not an easy job. And these regulations, these permits, approval documents, these things going to take years, And for the start, this business is hard to move forward. Okay, and the third one is a lack of a domain expertise. So that's why you see in the last slide, I say we care about the experience of the founders very much. So for some, we see many very young founders. They are college students, or even they're. I think I saw one. Remember, there's one project. Their founders are like a high school students, right? So they do not have. They have a beautiful idea again, and they have a big vision again. But that idea, that vision, is supported by nothing. Okay, because they do not have their domain expertise at all. They are just very young students. I would not say that young students may not be successful in the future, but it's all like kind of a probability, right? So, and as investors, we prefer to invest in more stable project and a predictable project, right? So we want to reduce the uncertainty as much as possible. Okay, so the next one is non-computation. So I see again, I interviewed many founders, and they say, my idea is cool, my product is cool. I do not see any competitors in the world so far. So this is a very strong statement. And as a founders, you need to be very careful when you want to make such a claim, because if this is true, of course, which is not the most of the case is not such a case, right? So if it's true, of course, you will be the next unicorn or something like that. It's very likely that you're going to be successful in the near future, but most likely this is not true. Okay, so if you claim that, oh, there's no competitors, because as investors we have a team to do due diligence, so we will definitely get some competitors, okay, directly or indirectly. So there's thousands, tens of thousands of blockchain startups outside there. It's hard to claim that there's no competitors. Okay, and the next one is pushing too hard to get investment. I think this is very easy to understand. So if as a founder, if you're pushing too hard to get investment, so this is not, you give the investors some weird feelings that, you know, they may doubt that what exactly you need. Okay, so the last one is not profitable business. So far there's many beautiful ideas using blockchain technology to interrupt the current industries, but not all of them are very profitable business. For example, the blockchain using blockchain technology to supply chain. Okay, so there's many blockchain startups doing such things. So they build a blockchain platform to improve the logistics, to improve the efficiency of a supply chain. And the IBM Hyperledger is a very good example, because they have a partnership with Walmart, which has the largest logistics or supply chain in the world. And IBM uses a Hyperledger Fabric to build a supply chain blockchain-based supply chain system for the Walmart, but it's not profitable at all. Okay, so in other words, the profit margin is very small. So using blockchain is good, and it indeed improves some efficiency of the supply chain for some enterprise, but this profit margin is very little. It's very small. So if for such a case, I mean, it's really hard for the startups to survive. And even you survive, you have one big client like a Walmart, but it's not profitable, or you have very little profit. You need to talk to the second Walmart, the third Walmart. You need to have hundreds of such big clients. So which is not easy if you're a startup. But if you're IBM, of course, it could be much easier. But as a startup, this is a very tough goal to get big clients, enterprise clients. Okay, so I think that's all the red flags we keep in mind when we look at the startups. I think that because I only have 15 to 20 minutes, so that's all I shared today. I hope you will find it helpful. Thank you, everyone.
Dr. Chong, that was fantastic. I think there are some really tangible insights that everyone can take from that. You know, everyone's going to be wanting to speak with you, obviously, if you're receiving thousands of pitches, you know, on a monthly basis. There's definitely a lot that people can learn there to make that process that much easier for you. One question that I had just immediately from hearing your presentation there, you know, was really focused on that team, right? I know that that's something that every venture capitalist is really looking at. You know, what has this person done before? What qualifies them for this environment? I think a lot of people listening today would be saying, well, you know, I don't know how to program, or I haven't built my own consensus algorithms, you know, and I don't really have that kind of more technical aspect that someone with a PhD and is teaching master's level students would have. So how can you kind of help people navigate that? You know, the understanding of having that domain expertise is kind of at times more important than having that really, you know, granular technical understanding of exactly how to build this brand new consensus algorithm.
Yeah, so good question. I think this thing need to be figured out in such a logical way. So first of all, as I said, you must be clear about your business. Okay, you first need to define that my business is a tech firm or non-tech firm. What I mean tech firm is like I need hardcore tech stuff. Okay, like AI companies or blockchain companies, like I want to build a public chain, like a new public chain competing with Ethereum. That means this is a very hardcore project. or zero proof, zero knowledge proof, right? So such thing is very hardcore technology. And if you want to do such a project, of course, your team members, your founding members, you must have like a professors, for example, doctors, right, and PhDs and researchers, scientists. That's a must. That's a must. But for some others, like say, oh, I have an idea, like let's say I want to build a Uniswap. Okay, so it's just a smart contract. I just need some engineers, right? So engineers who knows how to write a Solidity smart contract or some other smart contract. So I do not need a professors or PhDs. So that means, but I need a business guy who has lots of experience to understand this financial type of business. And this person must have lots of connections in the field, right? For example, like I want to build a decentralized exchange. So DEX, DEX. Okay, so this kind of exchange has no technical barrier at all. So that means in my founding team, I even do not need a tech person. But what I need a person who has been running an exchange in the past. And this guy has lots of connections to the current exchanges, even crypto exchanges or traditional exchanges. Okay, so the business is the core. And in my founding members, I need such a person. And for a tech person, okay, that's fine. Once I have the business connections, the business skeleton, all the things is clear, then I can just go to the outsourcing companies, tech companies, and say, hey, I tell you what I need. And these engineers are going to figure out in 1 or 2 months.
I think those are great insights. You know, if you really understand your business, you understand the pain points and what people need, then you can work with the, you know, the technical people and build out exactly that vision that you have in your mind. So thank you, Dr. Chong Li. Those were some fantastic insights. I'm sure everyone's getting a lot out of that. Finally, here we're gonna turn it over to Mr. Gabriel Cardona, the developer evangelist extraordinaire. So, you know, as Elena expanded on, you know, we've already gone through exactly how you can come up with your business idea. Dr. Chong has told us the things that different funders are really evaluating. Gabrielle is going to get into a bit more detail on both of those, but also really focus on how to take your business to the next level once you do have, you know, all your ducks in a row and the capital that you need to grow. So Gabrielle, can't wait to hear what you have to say, and thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen now. Please let me know if you guys are able to see it. Yes? Okay, perfect. So now you're able to see my slides, yes? I'm unable to see you, so can somebody confirm with their voice? Yes, we're good. Okay, so first I just want to say it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much. The two previous presenters were great and very on point. I got a lot from that. I'm looking forward to being able to watch the videos later and get some insights. Okay, let me kick off my timer so that I know I'm on point here. Okay, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and get started. So hello, my name is Gabriel Cardona. I am developer evangelist from Ava Labs, and today we're going to be talking about how to launch your blockchain startup. So before we get into details, I want to take a couple steps back so that we can really get the big picture and appreciate the scope of the opportunity. So the blockchain is as big of a leap forward as personal computers and the World Wide Web. This is a censorship-resistant distributed computer and value transfer network, a public ledger that relies on no central authority and enables transferring any amount of value to anyone, anywhere, nearly instantly and nearly for free. So this is not just money of the internet, which is like the naive sort of first take on what's happening here. This is really the internet of money, or as we say, the internet of finance. So this is a multi-dimensional, multifaceted jewel, and it represents a genuine paradigm shift and an emerging new platform. And we've seen multiple paradigm shifts in the past where new platforms emerged. So in communications, we went from telegraph to telephone to radio to television to satellite to World Wide Web. And in computation, we went from mainframes to microcomputers to mini computers, desktop computers, laptop, mobile, into the Internet of Things and into the cloud. And with each successive paradigm shift and each new platform, the time between the creation of the platform and mainstream adoption decreases. So another way to say that is adoption is accelerating. And each time there's a handful of companies which act as stewards of the emerging platform and then build transformative teams which end up helping to define the very platform upon which they're built. So for example, think of Microsoft and Apple emerging and ultimately helping to define the desktop and the PC era. We have Google emerging from the web. Facebook and Twitter emerged from social graphs. Even Instagram, if you remember, emerged very quickly from mobile. And so the opportunity exists right now for startups which see the blockchain as a platform and which take a sense of stewardship and ownership over it to build the next transformative wave of startups. So in the mid-'70s in Menlo Park, I'm here in the Bay Area. So here near where I'm at right now in the San Francisco Bay Area in Menlo Park, there was a group called the Homebrew Computer Club, and they met regularly and they discussed the emerging microcomputer revolution. And many notable West Coast computer companies and characters emerged from the Homebrew Computer Club. So for example, there was Paul Terrell from the Byte Shop, Adam Osborne, creator of the Osborne One, Leif Felsenstein, he was one of the organizers of the event. John Draper, famously known as Captain Crunch, this gentleman figured out that the whistle that was included in a box of Captain Crunch cereal emitted the 2600 hertz tone, and that's the same tone that Ma Bell's engineers used to get access to their the phone network. So they were actually able to pick up a phone, whistle a series of tones into it, and then call all around the world to the payphone right next to him, and he would pick it up and say hello, and his voice would go all the way around the world and come out the other phone. And this is back when, you know, doing long distance calls was a really big deal, and they called this phone phreaking. But perhaps most famously out of the Homebrew Computer Club were these two gentlemen you see on the right here, Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs. They're obviously Apple Computer, and they used to go to the Homebrew Computer Club, and they gave away the specifications for the Apple One for free. And then, of course, they charged for the Apple II, and the rest is history. But really quickly, their first foray into hardware was not actually the Apple One. They met up with John Draper, and they actually went to the Stanford Linear Accelerator and borrowed a book on tones, and they were able to build what was called the Blue Box, which was a little tiny dialing mechanism that allowed you to do phone phreaking. Fortunately, they put that aside and pivoted into doing the Apple computer, and the world is as we see it today. But I like to tell people that organizations and groups like what we're doing right now, small groups which are intimate and made up of engineers and academics and entrepreneurs, and which are based on cutting edge technology, are very akin to the Homebrew Computer Club of our time. So I like to tell people that, you know, the next big Google, the next big Twitter, the next big startup, I should say, is going to emerge from the blockchain space out of groups like what we're doing right now. So I urge you to, if you're with other people, look around. If you can see the faces of the people on the screen, look at them. It's very likely that someone listening to this presentation today is going to found the next big startup. So, you know, you could be sitting next to the next Steve Wozniak. You could be the next Steve Wozniak. I want to kind of do a deep dive into some tips that will help you if you have a startup. So I was at Trulia in 2010, 2011. We had an IPO on the New York Stock Exchange. We raised $100 million. Later, we were acquired by Zillow for $2.5 billion. And our co-founder, his name is Pete Flint. He is now a venture capitalist at the NFX Guild, the Network Effects Guild in San Francisco. And the next couple of slides are knowledge I learned from him and his team. If you're not following them, check out Pete Flint and James Corrier from the NFX Guild in San Francisco. They have an absolute wealth of knowledge with regards to startups. And so they say you want to leverage competitive advantages to create defensibilities. So let's unpack that a bit. So competitive advantages will help your startup become successful, and defensibilities will help you stay there. Defensibility is when you can protect your startup from competition. And so remember, competitive advantages help your company become successful. And there are 8 competitive advantages that they've identified. The first is speed. So how fast can you come up with new ideas? How fast can you implement them into minimum viable products? How fast can you take feedback and pivot? How fast can you ultimately have some type of liquidity event or gains from the work you're putting in? They identify speed as the single greatest competitive advantage because as your organization grows bigger, it's just ultimately moves slower. And you can think about a startup like a little boat that's very nimble, and you can think about a large company as a huge boat, and there's multiple layers that an idea has to go through before the boat can pivot. So speed will always remain your single competitive advantage. Second is capital. So capital allows you to hire better people faster and more people. Capital can actually discourage a competitor from wanting to compete against you because they can perceive you as having a war chest. Capital can prevent an investor from wanting to invest in a competitor of yours because for the same reason, the investor might see you as having a war chest and not view it worth their time to invest in a failing project, which would be the people competing against you, of course. Capital is a double-edged sword, though, of course, because capital can also give you enough rope to hang yourself. So managing capital requires a certain level of maturity. Third is a unique team. So it could be that somehow the mixture of the different people on your team, something special emerges from that. It could be that somebody on your team is connected in some way. It could be that somebody on your team has a unique insight into the product or the market that you're attacking. But a unique team is definitely a competitive advantage. If you want to build the best team and the best company in the world, you need the best people in the world. So you can never, ever over-invest in your people. That's your single most valuable asset is your team. Next is content. So there are some companies for which content is a huge competitive advantage. So you can think about Trulia or Zillow. You can think about Pinterest. You can think about Yelp. These Facebook, for example, these kind of companies require evergreen content. This content needs to be easily indexable and searchable, discoverable, and it needs to be easily mentally consumable and digestible. So content is a very, very important competitive advantage. Next is buzz. So it could be that your team just is a media darling. So for example, I remember Kara Swisher used to give a lot of love to the Twitter folks early on. It could be that your company just happens to have incredibly passionate followers or fans and that they happen to have a big social microphone. So you can think about Apple with John Gruber and Marco Arment and Dan Benjamin and that whole crew. So bloggers and social media who happen to be incredibly passionate about your company. Ultimately, that buzz can be leveraged into like Apple's events when they used to release a new phone and there will be a line around the block, or Google's developer conferences each year in San Francisco. I've attended those and there genuinely is a buzz in the air. You can feel it. It's like when you go to a concert or something, there's just electricity in the air. Next, I grouped these two together, relationships and location. So location matters a little bit less because we're living in this post-COVID world where everything is hyper remote. But I would argue that it still matters because there are some things which you just can't easily replicate somewhere else. So for example, I mentioned I live in San Francisco. We're pretty much right on the border of Silicon Valley, where I'm at right now. And Silicon Valley has a history which goes back to the 40s. And there were contracts from the Department of Defense to Stanford and to Berkeley. And then there's been this very rich history of a company leading into company, leading into company. So famously, there was the Traitorous Eight, and there was Gordon Moore, and they left Shockley Semiconductor and they created Fairchild. And then Gordon Moore went on to create Intel, of course, and Moore's Law is named after him. Another good example I like to use is the PayPal mafia. So Reid Hoffman, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, and their crew after PayPal have went on to create Palantir, SpaceX, Tesla, LinkedIn, etc. And they help each other and they help each other's teams and through products, etc. So relationships and location, they matter a little bit less than they did pre-COVID, but they still matter. The relationships you've built up over the course of your career, whether or not people open the door for subsequent opportunities, those are great competitive advantages. And then lastly is patents or intellectual property. Those matter a little bit less today because everything in the world is moving towards open source and Creative Commons, but they still matter. Intellectual property still matters very much. If nothing else, you have to be aware of how you want to license it, even if you're doing Creative Commons or open source, because there is subtlety between the GNU public license or the MIT license, etc. So patents and intellectual property are another competitive advantage. Lastly, I would just say that to remind you that speed is your single greatest competitive advantage. Next, we have defensibilities. So remember, if competitive advantages help you become successful, defensibilities help you stay successful. And if you look at this nice little graph on the right here, you can see that as you grow your startup with good competitive advantages, then your value will grow linearly. However, if you're able to go beyond competitive advantages, and if you can achieve true defensibilities, you're actually able to defend and protect your startup, then your value will grow exponentially. And they've identified 4 defensibilities. The first being economies of scale. So bigger is different. A change in size and a change in amount is a change in type. And so imagine as you get bigger, you're able to buy in bulk, and that gives you a greater discount, and you're able to pass on those savings to your users. And then that means you're able to convert more of them through your funnel, which allows you to buy in greater bulk, which allows you to pass on the savings to your customer. And it's a cycle which feeds upon itself. And basically the numbers are in your favor, and you cannot argue against the math. So economies of scale. Next is brand. So brand is when you're presented with a problem or a task, and a company immediately jumps to the top of your mind. So a great example is searching on the web. Most people are going to use Google. Sure, some people will use DuckDuckGo, and a very, very small percent of people might use Bing. But overall, most people just use Google. They've got that brand when it comes to that particular task, searching on the web, and that's been incredibly valuable for them. They've been able to ultimately grow one of the greatest companies in all of history based upon owning that particular brand of search on the web. It's been shown that Google's brand, just the pixels on the screen, not the intellectual property, not the lawyers, not the channel, none of that, just the pixels on the screen is worth $200 billion. And it's been shown that people who are strongly branded don't even do price comparison shopping. They'll just go and buy the product that they want, branded with the company that they trust, regardless of competition and different prices, etc. So branding is an incredibly strong defensibility. Next is embedding. Embedding is when your product or service is embedded into another product or service, and it's not able to be removed. This is usually the results of sales teams and multi-year contracts. So I have a good example of this one. My very first job out of college, I was working as a contractor building a dashboard for Walmart employees. And whenever we would present it to the stakeholders, we had to demo it in Internet Explorer 6. So if anybody knows about Internet Explorer 6, it's famously one of the worst browsers in all of time. It held back the web for many years, and that was our target. And the reason we did that is because Walmart had signed a multi-year deal with Microsoft where all of the deliverables had to target Internet Explorer 6. So that's an example of embedding. And then lastly, network effects. So network effects are when for every new user of your product or service, every other user, it becomes more valuable for every other user of the product or service. And perhaps the great example of that is the blockchain itself. So, I work at Ava Labs. We have Avalanche. Our token is called Avox. For every new person in the world who accepts Avox for a good or a service, that makes the Avalanche network more valuable for every other single person, because now there's a new good or service that they can spend their Avox on. And a network effect is very much like gravity. The more everybody's on Facebook because everybody's on Facebook. And as the network effect grows, the gravity increases and it pulls in yet more people, which causes the network effect to continue growing. So network effects are by far the single greatest defensibility. And that's why Pete Flint and his crew are called NFX Guild. They believe in network effects so much. So there are 4 defensibilities: economies of scale, brand, embedding, and then network effects. Network effects are by far the greatest defensibility. So next, we want to design for a world unimaginable. Communication networks, sensors, robotics, virtual reality, augmented reality, artificial intelligence, and yes, the blockchain, they're all improving exponentially. And they're interweaving and they're converging. And success and network effects in one field or tech stack amplify and accelerate related and complementary tech stacks. And this is further amplified by the availability of more capital than ever before. So this is leading to more ideas getting funded than ever before and at a bigger scale. So basically the pace of change is accelerating. And Peter Diamandis, the creator of the X Prize and the co-founder of the Singularity University, says that in the next decade, we will experience more technological progress than in the previous 100 years. And so I have on here, there is no box. The cliche would be that we need to think outside of the box, but really it's much bigger than that. There is no box. We need to think outside of ourselves. We need to throw away everything and start at first principles and rethink everything with radically new and big ideas. We are presented with the opportunity over the next 5 or 10 years to have an impact on the world, which will last 25, will last 50 years. So, picture the early internet pioneers working on the ARPANET in the late 60s or the TCP/IP stack in the early 70s. That was around 50 years ago. And they were designing for a world which they couldn't fully imagine. So hence the IPv4 address exhaustion, right? The original internet architecture literally had fewer than 4.3 billion addresses. And that was why we're transitioning from IPv4 to IPv6. So what IPv4 address exhaustion bugs are we building into our systems today? In what ways are we failing to imagine the unimaginable? And here are some of my heroes: Tim Berners-Lee, Vint Cerf. We have Ted Nelson, he thought of hypertext in '63. We have Douglas Engelbart, creator of the mouse. We have Mark Andreessen, creator of Mosaic. We have J.C. Licklider, who got the money from ARPA to fund the original internet. He came up with human-computer interface in the early 60s. So lastly, I just want to summarize. I know my time is up now, so I just want to summarize. The genie is out of the bottle. Blockchain technology is a one-way door, and we have stepped through that door, and there's just no going back. And the very nature of this technology is that it's censorship resistant. And so these networks are going to be around for a very, very long time. They'll continue to mature and grow in power, and they'll continue to work themselves into the many facets of our lives and of our society. One day, we'll wake up and we won't be able to imagine the world without them. So thank you so much. My name is Gabriel Cardona. I'm developer evangelist from Ava Labs. You can reach out to me on Twitter at CGCardona or Telegram, or drop me an email. Thank you so much. It's a great honor.
Gabrielle, that was awesome. I loved your point about there is no box. I think that is so incredibly relevant for the blockchain industry, and the idea of not building for today, not building for tomorrow, but really building the environment of the future. Definitely something that everyone listening today, I'm sure is going to be top of mind for them. We're going to get into some questions and answers here. We have a bunch of questions that have come in. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get to all of them here in the last 12 minutes, but just want to remind everyone, if you found this presentation really insightful today, please continue to follow us on all social media platforms or on our website, FinTech Advisory Service, basically everywhere on the internet. So please reach out. And if we didn't get to your question today, we'd be happy to get to that in the very near future. So we'll move on to our question and answer session next. I think the big question that I really want to ask you guys is, we've talked a lot about what are the important factors that allow startups to succeed, but what do you also see on kind of the other end of the spectrum? What are some of the leading factors that really affect these startups and make them fail?
Daniel, I think you experienced some troubles with the connection.
Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, now it's fine. If you can repeat the question.
Yeah, sure. So I think, we talked a lot today about what are the factors that allow startups to succeed. What are kind of those key information pieces to be looking at. But I also want to go to the other side of the spectrum. What are kind of the leading factors that might be holding back those startups or really, enable them to set them up for failure? So what are some of the leading kind of failure factors that you see out there in startups today?
Okay. I got the question, guys. So Daniel was asking what are their key factors that affect the failure of startups, and then maybe I can jump first in here. So in my opinion, what I saw is companies that are trying to build a business without a purpose, without any long-term vision. So they're just seeing a trend, for example, NFT, and they're like, oh, we're going to build an NFT. But they're there for a short-term trend. So they didn't plan anything. They don't really want to do anything long-term. They're just trying to seize a really quick opportunity and just have a quick earning. This usually ends up in a failure because, of course, these founders, they don't really think about business strategy. They don't really think about values that they're bringing in the market. They're just trying to check it out, whether it's gonna shoot or it will not. And in most of the cases, it will not. There are, of course, exceptions when there were founders coming, trying to see some trend, jumping to the market, and then end up actually getting a lot of money. And we remember a lot of cases in 2017 when this kind of situation was happening. But yeah, for me personally, I believe that the lack of purpose, the lack of vision, and long-term strategy is a key factor why startups are failing. And of course, there are many other reasons, and I will let Dr. Tron-Lee to continue, and then Gabriel as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I here just my 2 cents. Usually, I ask 2 questions to the founders. The first is, do you know who you are, and do you know what you're doing? So, do you know who you are means that they need to know themselves. Usually, it's hard for people to know themselves, right? So, what's my advantage? What's my disadvantage? Calling a pro, and I'm a tech guy. I really love research, or I'm a business guy, and my personal connection all falls in the domain of a business or technical field or something like that. They must be very clearly know that what they can do and what they cannot do. Okay, so this is very essential for each team member, and then they can define the team. So what's the key advantage of the team? And the second is, I think this is something in common. It's what do you know what you're doing? So it means you must have a very clear vision. You must know what the clear purpose, and you know that's what you are doing, right? So you cannot say, okay, I have no idea. Just like the example, oh, NFT is hot. Okay, let's do some cool stuff NFT, and then tomorrow is okay. DeFi is hot. Okay, let's do some DeFi. So if this is the case, of course, I don't think they're going to be successful.
Okay, and I would say, Dr. Chun-Li, I apologize if I said your name incorrectly. I think he was spot on when he said previously about people not fully appreciating the technical challenge. So, our CEO is Professor Amin Gunsarir, and our COO and our Chief Protocol Officer are both computer science PhDs from Cornell. I believe right now our team is 16. We have 12 PhDs from Cornell. So I think the thing that people underestimate is just this is computer science, and there's the breadth and depth of knowledge there's a lot. It's incredibly powerful. The learning curve is very steep, but once you attain it, it's like you have magical powers or something. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, and these technologies are just incredibly powerful. And there's a lot of wealth out there. It's relatively easy to raise money in the blockchain space, especially if you're able to throw buzzwords around and get people super pumped up. So there's a lot of people who've raised a lot of capital, but then they're not able to deliver simply because there's not enough competent engineers in the world right now to solve all the problems on all the blockchain teams. So I would say the thing I see most is just people unable to fulfill on the technical end of things.
Great insights from all our panelists there. Thank you so much for your response to that question. I have another question here that came in that I want to be covering here. We've talked about the biggest trends in the industry today, NFTs, DeFi, interoperability have all been mentioned today. What are some of the trends that you think are kind of unappreciated or underappreciated that you really see as a future space within blockchain too?
I think you're muted.
Yes, I did. Yeah, talking about unappreciated trends in the market, I would say that people still, I mean, there are a lot of applications in the blockchain space in the enterprise sector that can actually help companies to build their business, to improve operations. And that sector is a little bit mistreated, because I know that a lot of companies coming to us asking for advice how we can use blockchain technology. We just want to use blockchain technology, but they don't really understand. For them, it's just a buzzword. They just don't really understand what blockchain is about. Why do they need it for their business? They just want to add it everywhere where it's possible. And companies that actually can implement, utilize this technology and improve their operations, they sometimes don't see this opportunity. So if we see like a crypto space growing pretty fast, and we already see like a growing adoption, enterprise blockchain solutions are still kind of I would say mistreated, misvalued, and people don't really understand how to use blockchain for your business yet. And I really hope that this vertical will grow faster and in a smart way.
Dr. Chunli?
Okay. Yeah. Basically, in my view, is like any new technology or blockchain-based technologies that leads to the big increase of liquidity to the current asset or atoms will be a trend in the coming years. So you can tell, like for example, NFT, right? So essentially, the essential stuff for the NFT, or the most valuable thing for NFT, is that it increased the protect something. The digital asset, and in the meanwhile, more importantly, it increased the liquidity of that digital arts or something like that, right? And also for the DeFi, exactly the same thing, right? So by removing the central guy, the middleman, and do everything peer to peer, so it's largely increased the liquidity. So, and I already see some very early projects, they are going along this way to combine, for example, DeFi and NFT, or Uniswap and NFT, so to further improve the liquidity for the digital assets or something like that. So that will be definitely, I see that will be the future in the coming years.
Excellent. So I would say the thing that I see, in my opinion, which is most undervalued or underappreciated, misunderstood, is the censorship-resistant nature of the blockchain and hopefully the web going forward. I think over the course of 2019 and 2020, we've seen many different people being deplatformed, is the term. And regardless of how you feel about the person, the man or woman who may or may not have been, kicked off of Twitter or Facebook or something, overall, the trend of being able to deplatform people is troubling, in the sense that we want people to be able to express themselves, right? And so I think that the censorship-resistant web and the censorship-resistant nature of the blockchain is hugely valuable. And I think it's one of the most important things that we're working on right now. Not just Ava Labs, but everybody on this call, everybody in this industry. We're basically building the next infrastructure for this decentralized web, which is going to allow people to host assets and to express themselves in a way which is censorship resistant. So in the same way today, if somebody wanted to shut down Avalanche, we have about 900 validators at this moment. They would have to coordinate somehow shutting down 900 different machines simultaneously all around the world. So we're talking different continents, different legal jurisdictions. Some machines are virtual, some machines are physical. It's possible, but it's practically impossible. Actually envisioning somebody taking down Bitcoin or Avalanche or Ethereum, it's just not practical. So the censorship resistant nature of the blockchain, and hopefully the censorship resistant web, are what I believe currently are just misunderstood or undervalued, and I believe they're going to play out large in the next chapter of our story.
All great points there. I think enterprise blockchain, liquidity, and censorship resistance, definitely some things that, hopefully the people on this call today will really look further into and understand the future potential of. So thank you all for your inputs there. Unfortunately, this was probably the quickest hour and a half that I've experienced during quarantine, but unfortunately we are out of time already. Thank you all for joining us today. Really appreciate all of your time, from our panelists to our attendees. Once again, please reach out to us on FinTech Advisory Service. Please reach out to Dr. Chong, to Gabrielle. Any questions that you might have that we didn't get to, we'd be very happy to address them. So thank you all once again. Thank you to our attendees. Thank you to our panelists, and hope to see you on our next webinar sometime soon. Thanks, everyone.